So again, in terms of topics for our webinar today, what's new in Omega 6.5, we'll talk about product offerings, system requirements. We'll do a feature review, of course, in Composer and Plot and Omega. I will talk about other features and other releases that have come out in the past couple of years. And if you have any questions at the end or questions along the way, feel free at any time. And we will record this and disseminate it at the end. First thing that I always would like to talk about, of course, is where to find more information. And we have plenty of information on the web or on our Omega DVD. So on every single Omega DVD, as soon as you put the DVD in, there's kind of a friendly front end that pops up, and you can either click on Install Products, and then there's right there on the first page, What's New in Omega. So click on that, and it'll bring up a PDF file, and the PDF file will look a lot like this. So this is what it comes up with. And then, as I say about all of our What's New documents, if you don't feel like reading a 30-page document, I would always encourage you to review the table of contents, because the table of contents gives you a nice summary of all the features that are in a particular release, whether it's 6.5 or 6.0 or 5.0, what have you. And then if you want to, within the document itself, you can click on any of these table of content items and you jump right to that particular topic. So, and then we also have videos that are embedded in the What's New document as well. So if you want to find out about the PLT extract feature, you can click on that and it'll take you right to a video right out on our website. So that's all right there, right in our What's New in Omega document. All right. The other thing is that if you go to our website, we have what we call the Learning Center. You can also click on that. And again, I'll send a copy of this PowerPoint so you can have the links right there. But we have all kinds of great information out here, again, including even more videos, all of our previous What's New documents, sample files, sample jobs, recordings of other webinars, things like that. So that's where you can get more information. And again, I will send a follow-up email with links to all of this, as well as links to a recording of this webinar. And I'll show these actually in Composer, but just sort of a quick smattering of some of the features. We have groups of groups, which is an item that just works very naturally and very seamlessly, helps you to organize your jobs a little bit better. Show fills and scroll while you're in your Composer dialog boxes, alt constraints. And these are really all things that come very quickly and very naturally. I just find myself using them constantly. They're really nice additions and help me to streamline my design and output process. Over on the right-hand side, we have some other workflow kinds of oriented things, and again, we'll get into these just in a second. So, we did begin shipping last Thursday, and it is available in French, Italian, German, Spanish, Dutch, and simplified Chinese. So if we have any of our friends from Spandex or any international distributors or anything like that, we do have all of our Omega versions translated as well. In terms of our new seat summary, basically our new seats are the same offerings as what we have offered in Omega 6.0 as well. So we have Omega CP, which is for cutting and printing, which gives you the ability to do your full vinyl cutting as well as assigning fills and images for output to the Gerber Edge, or even if you want to output to an inkjet workflow as well. We have Omega CS, which is a cut solution if you're into, for example, for monuments where you're primarily just cutting. Then we have Omega Plot Station. We kind of take Omega and we divide it into two. The output half is Omega Plot Station, which includes ArtPath and Omega Plot as well as the Gerber Q Manager. So it really gives you everything you need if you want to put a plotter or a Gerber Edge out at a different location and just feed it files. That's what Plot Station can do for you. And then we have Omega Layout Station. And the Layout Station is just the design half of Omega 6.5. And that includes Composer, your TrueType font converter, all of your file conversion capabilities. So, and that's also available at a reduced price from any of our full seats as well. So, okay, next up we have just a summary of our upgrades. And in terms of our upgrades in Omega 6.0 and now in 6.5, we're trying to kind of keep it simple in terms of the upgrade process. So we're reducing the number of upgrade permutations by consolidating multiple older versions into a single upgrade. So if you're at Omega 6.0, That's just an upgrade by itself because we've really tried to make it as enticing as possible for people who have just upgraded within the past year. By the way, as sort of an asterisk, Omega 6.0 to 6.5 upgrades do not have a Find My Font password because you already have Find My Font with Omega 6.0. So just don't be looking for it in the box because it's not there if you're at Omega 6.0. Then we consolidate Omega 4 and 5. That's a single upgrade, and that is just a password upgrade. So you get a box with What's New document, a Getting Started document, as well as a DVD and a password to allow you to upgrade. Omega 2.5 and 2.6 and 3.0, that's all one upgrade as well. Omega 1.5 and 2.0, that's all one upgrade. And for that one, because it's getting along, back to be many, many years ago when we had Omega 1.5 and 2.0, we want to make sure the keys remain nice and functional. So we do replace the key for those older types of upgrades. So 1.5 and 2.0 to 6.5 does get a new key. And then if you're at Graphics Advantage, all versions of Graphics Advantage, whether you're at Elite, Select, or Premier, they all get upgraded to Omega 6.5 CP, and that is also with a new key. In terms of people who might have upgraded to Omega 6.0 recently, like since December 1st, we do have what we call a recent upgrade program. And we provide you with an Omega 6.0 to 6.5 upgrade at a drastic price reduction, just kind of covering our cost sort of a thing. So go see your authorized Gerber distributor for details about recent upgrades if you have upgraded to Omega 6.0 since December 1st. And if you're going to ISA in Las Vegas, is anybody going? ISA Las Vegas? We look forward to seeing you there. Stop by the Gerber booth, and we'll have some demonstration of Omega 6.5 as well as the Gerber Edge, all of our consumables. And if you ask nicely, we might even have a special bonus for you if you buy an Omega upgrade. So stop by the Gerber booth in ISA in Las Vegas, and look forward to seeing you there. Basically what we say now is that you need hardware and software that will run your operating system, and you'll be able to run Gerber Omega. Of course, that being said, if you have a faster processor and more RAM and a nicer monitor, you're going to get your work done more quickly because, of course, everything is going to occur more quickly. But we are compatible with Windows 10, 64, and 32. We're compatible with Windows 8 and Windows 8.1, 64 and 32, and then also Windows 7. We do not run on Windows XP or Windows Vista any longer. And if you have a Gerber Edge 1 or 2, we do have some USB to parallel adapters. Parallel ports are no longer supported by the current operating systems. So if you do have an Edge 1 or Edge 2, you're going to need one of those Gerber adapters. And also if you have a plotter, of course, everyone has a plotter. The 9-pin serial ports are becoming supported less and less, and depending on if you have a laptop or what have you. So we also do have a USB to serial adapter as well.
Also, if you have 3D AutoCarve for ArtPath or Gerber Braille Interpreter, you'll need a 32-bit operating system.
So this is Composer 6.5, and again, something that we always strive for with any of our releases is to add important new functionality, but not to disrupt your current workflow. And one of these comes out, it's very important, is the first one, which is groups of groups. So groups of groups is kind of just like it sounds like, or sometimes other people might call them nested groups. But in Omega 6.0 or any of the other Omega releases, if you're designing and you select something and it's grouped, if you were to hit ungroup, it's just going to break this down into all of its individual components. So if you go to arrange and then ungroup, it would break it down so each one of these objects would be its own separate object. And it breaks it down from one group into just a series of objects. In Omega 6.5, I've already done some grouping here. If I go and I click on ungroup in Omega 6.5, it's not going to break it down into its individual components. If there were any groups that were done before, it will break it down into the other individual groups. So here I grouped the Gerber G and the word Gerber together, I grouped the word Omega together, and I grouped the word 6.5 together. And by the way, this is just a logo. This is an EPS file that we imported. So this is not text. I'll talk about text here in a sec. So as you see, instead of breaking it down into each of the individual pieces, it did break it down into the subgroups. And let me just go back and group this again. I'll press F6 or go to Arrange and click on Group again. If you want to, we do have a keyboard shortcut, sort of a tip or a trick. If you want to immediately just break a group down into just an individual component, you can hold down the Control key and click on an item within a group, and that will immediately break the group and give you access to just that one individual component. And we still maintain that as well in Omega 6.5. So again, if you have a group of groups and then you go to Arrange and then Ungroup, it breaks it down into its individual, into the subgroups. But if you want to, there's a little quick shortcut. Just hold down the Control key and click on an item, and that allows you to access just an individual shape. The other thing, again, I'm just going to go ahead and group this again, Arrange and Group. And here you see I have one master group. If you do want it to behave like it did in previous versions, we have a new function, a new feature. It's called Ungroup All. And you notice that the keyboard shortcut is Alt plus F5. So you can just have it behave like it always has by clicking on Ungroup All, and then it just broke it down into its individual components. Or let me just go back and undo that. So now I have my group again. You can also press Alt and F5. So the keyboard accelerator in Omega for Ungroup is F5. If you want it to behave like a previous version where it breaks it all the way down, you can just hold down the Alt key and press F5, and it does the same thing as a previous version. So, and this is a really nice feature because it gives you a whole nother layer of job organization, and it really doesn't get in your way. You're just grouping and ungrouping, and then you can ungroup your groups and things like that. But it's another nice aspect, another nice element of being able to sort of corral all the pieces together the way that you want them to hang together. So, groups of groups. Any questions? Not so far. Okay, good. And thank you for the feedback. I do appreciate that. The yes or the no, believe it or not, it helps me to proceed as I need to. So I'm just going to talk about text and then grouping as well. So just kind of questions pop up about this from time to time about text and grouping and what you can do with text. So as you enter text, it is automatically grouped on a line-by-line basis, and it's also automatically combined on a line-by-line basis. So that's why you see the inside shape of the E is automatically knocked out, because text is grouped and combined on a line-by-line basis. So you can also do groups of groups with text as well. So now if I go to F6 or Arrange and Group, Arrange, Group, you see that I have my supergroup or my master group, and then if I go to Arrange and Ungroup, or even Arrange and Ungroup All, because it is text, no matter how hard you try, if you go to Arrange and Ungroup All, it's going to maintain, it's an entity known as text in Composer. So if you actually want to break it down even further as text, what you can do is go ahead and select it and then go to the Edit menu and Convert to Objects, and then it will allow you to break it down even further. So I'm pressing F5, and now you see that my text is just a series of objects. But text by itself is grouped and combined on a line-by-line basis, and you cannot ungroup it into its individual components unless you remove the text smart edit or convert it to curves. So I'm just going to kind of undo that for a second. I want to show sort of a tip or a trick again. So I have it back as text once again. And one of the things that I've taken to doing, instead of converting it to objects, what I do now in a lot of cases is that I'll go into my Outline dialog box, Tools, and then Outline. And I'm going to give this a little teeny tiny outline, 0.001, 1,000th of an inch, and I'm going to tell it to hide my originals. So now this is no longer text. This is now an outline. And because it's outlined, I can now it's not grouped and combined on a line-by-line basis. It just behaves like a normal outline. So I can go ahead and press F5 and press F5 again, and it does allow me to access the individual pieces. But if I want to, I can regenerate it as text or as my outline. So it gives me more flexibility than simply converting it to objects. So just sort of a little tip and trick. And again, if you have any questions about that, feel free to chime in, but I can cover that again. So anyway, another thing that I do want to talk about, let me turn this off so I'm just going to have text again, If you do have, so now I have text, I have 2 lines of text, I press F6 to group it. So this is now a group. If I regenerate my reaction or if I regenerate my text, because it is being recreated as new text entities, it will resort back to the original text grouping. So I don't want you to go crazy as you group several lines of text and then you regenerate the text. It will resort back to its original line-by-line grouping and combining. So just some of the nitty-gritty about groups of groups. Okay. And again, we're trying to make it so it's as unobtrusive as possible, but also as useful as possible. Okay. Next up, we have scroll work surface with a mouse wheel while in dialog boxes. What on earth is this guy talking about? So let me just show you. So I'm going to select this image in the background and go over here to my image fill dialog box. So say I'm working on this and for whatever reason I want to toggle out of show filled mode. I can press F8 on my keyboard, and you notice that it's while I'm in this dialog box, it allows me still to go ahead and toggle F8 show filled on or show filled off. The other thing it allows you to do is if I, again still in the dialog box, if I scroll my mouse wheel up or down while I'm in the dialog box, it allows me to scroll my work surface while I'm in the dialog box. If I hold down the Control key and use my mouse wheel, you notice that I'm zooming in and zooming out. And again, I can press F8 to be in wireframe mode. And if I put my mouse over a particular object and I use my Control mouse wheel, it zooms in or out. So the focus is where your mouse is located for zooming in or zooming out. And I can also zoom up and down, scroll up and down by using my mouse wheel as well. Again, all while I'm in this dialog box. So this is important because in Omega 6.0, let me go here again and add an outline, Alt-1. There we go. In Omega 6.0, we added this capability to kind of preview effects such as outline, shadow, distortion, warp, things like that. You can preview effects with the Apply button. So what I've done is I've added a 0.1-inch outline to this text that I had selected, and I'm still in the outline dialog box. And this is nice with the Apply button because you can try different effects very quickly and remain in the box and get an idea of whether or not you like it. But however, since in Omega 6.0, since you're in a dialog box, you couldn't really control your display at all. So now in Omega 6.5, they kind of go hand in hand, the ability to do Apply and the ability to zoom in, zoom out, show filled, show wireframe, et cetera, while you're in outline, shadow, distortion, or in text entry, or in your fill dialog box, or pretty much any dialog box in Composer. So it kind of goes hand in hand and is another nice enhancement to a feature that we added in 6.0. Another thing that we've added here in Omega 6.5, I'm going to go ahead and make this outline a little bit smaller, 0.05, and then I'll apply it. And you notice sometimes when you're doing back cut decals, or if you want a big halo cut for a decal cut or something and you're using outline, sometimes you just want just the outside outline and you don't want the inside shapes. So now we have added in Omega 6.5 outside contour only. So you notice the inside of the E. I click on Apply, and you notice that it only gives me just the outside halo for outline. So that's another nice new feature in Omega 6.5. I'm going to go ahead and increase that again to 0.15 and apply it. And again, you just see the outside. I don't know if there would be anything on the inside. Let's see. Go here, apply. Yeah, so it automatically got rid of that little extra piece in there. So it saves me the step of having to have to delete it. And then again, if you do regenerate your outline without having this on, it'll have it pop back. So again, just saving you some steps and making your design time that much faster. And they really all definitely add up. So, okay. Let me zoom up here. Groups, scroll, work surface. Good, excellent. All right, talked about that guy. That guy, generate PLT file material costs. So this one, actually before I go to that one, I want to talk about another one here too as well. So again, this is for a nice feature function that I find myself using constantly. So if I go here and I say move, all right. So again, in Omega 6.0, we added the ability to keep your items on axis, or basically on a 45-degree axis, by holding down the Alt key. So you start your move operation, and then you can hold down the Alt key, and again, I find myself using this constantly. Hold down the Alt key, and it keeps you on axis, or it actually keeps you on a 45-degree matrix just by holding down the Alt key. In Omega 6.0, we also added the ability under the Layout menu to change your constraints. So my move angle by default is 45 degrees. If I want to make that 90 degrees, I can do that. In 6.5, we've added the ability to preference these different angles. And also in 6.5, some people were asking for the ability to turn certain on-screen constraints on or off. So you can now in 6.5, you can turn certain things on or off. So if you don't want moving to be constrained with the Alt key, you can simply turn it off, and then you can preference it, and then the Alt key will behave like it always has for moving. So, okay, so some additional nice things. Another thing in terms of moving and holding down the Alt key is that we have this on-screen digitize capability. And in Omega 6.0, this was not constrained. So if I held down the Alt key in Omega 6.0 or 5.0 or what have you, my movement would not be constrained for on-screen digitizing. In Omega 6.5, I get immediate whatever the value is set to in that dialog box we just looked at. So again, it's a nice way to constrain your movement very quickly and easily without having to have to do on axis or without having to have to guess about whether or not it's on axis. Just hold down the Alt key and it keeps all of your, oh, I didn't have the Alt key held down there. It keeps all of your movements constrained to the value that's in that dialog box. So that's for on-screen digitizing. And then we also have for detail edit. Oh, see, I just deleted that nice, beautiful graphic. Let me get it back. Okay, for detail editing, if you're in the hook tool, so you go over here and you have your hook tool. If you hold down your Alt key while using the hook tool, it will constrain you also to those same degrees that you have set in that dialog box. So it's constraining me to 90 degrees while I'm using my hook tool. Or if I use my slice and dice tool, if I hold down the Alt key, you notice that it's keeping me perfectly on axis. And using the Alt key, we do have the O, or the on-axis capability. That's been there for a while. But the Alt key is just so much quicker and easier. And it's just very natural. And it's only used when you actually hold down the Alt key. So it's really nice and quick and easy and simple. And you can also use it, another important tool, I think a nice important on-screen creation tool is the pencil tool here in Detail Edit. So you can draw a line and it automatically smooths it out for you. But again, without any constraints, without the ability to keep things on axis, it was sometimes a little difficult to try to sort of control this freehand drawing tool. Now I can just hold down my Alt key and I get a nice straight line, and if I let my Alt key go, I get my nice smooth flowing line. So it's again a nice enhancement to the existing functionality, and I wasn't quite close enough there, so I can use my Join tool. You should have been to my Detail Edit webinar last month, and you would know about the Join tool. But anyway, so again, the Alt key is used with on-screen digitizing as well as with detail editing, and I use this just constantly. Every time I do on-screen digitizing or detail editing, I'm using that Alt key because just it's so much easier and saves a lot of time. Great. So far, so good. Very nice. Good. All right. So we're going to get into something kind of more workflow related, and this is the ability to generate material costs for PLT files. And when I say material costs, I mean Gerber materials, meaning our Gerber vinyls and our Gerber Edge, Gerber Color foils. And when I say material costs, for starters, in Omega 6.5, we're starting off with dollars, US dollars, per square foot. So for those of you who don't use dollars, I'm sorry. And for those of you who don't use square feet, I'm sorry about that as well. But we'll talk about ways that you can deal with that as well, because you can alter your costing files any way you want to. So let me talk about that. Generate PLT file material costs. So I have a job here. extract example simple. And the point of the job is that I had different colors and I had different effects and things like that, outlines and small text and different vinyl colors, things like that. So this is just an example. It's obviously not attractive, sorry, but it does illustrate the point. So once you save any PLT file, there's a lot of information that's embedded in that PLT file. And before Omega 6.0, that's when we first introduced the ability to use the PLT extract program. In Omega 6.5, we've added on the additional capability of the costing. And there's another neat presentation tool that I'll show you here in a moment as well. But locked into a PLT file, or if you output a job, locked into a PRM file, is all sorts of useful information that you can use for sizing a job, for giving a customer presentation, the number of colors in the job, the vinyls in the job, the amount of time you've spent designing the job. It's all in a PLT file. And now you can get to that information through the use of the PLT extract program, and additionally you can now get your costs for PLT and output plot jobs. So let me go and I'll show you what to do to use this capability. So this job again is called extract example simple, as you see. So I'm going to go, and the way that I get to the PLT extract program, I hit my window key, and Windows has a nice built-in search feature. I just type in PLT, and it brings up PLT extract 6.5. And by the way, you notice that for our 6.5 programs, we just added on the version number at the end. So if you do run side by side, if you have, for example, Omega 5.0 and Omega 6.5 on the same system, you can tell which version of a program you're running. So here's PLT extract 6.5. And once I start it, it just brings up this little user interface. So in Omega 6.5, the first thing you need to do is select a cost file. And again, the cost file is in US dollars. These are Gerber costs at list pricing as it's published in our United States price book. So select the cost file. And we have the cost files are dated. So here's Gerber cost file 030117. That's the version that is in Omega 6.5 build 46, which is our official shipping release. As we update our cost files, we'll just add on a different date on the end here. So if you've made any changes to a cost file, we don't want to overwrite it. So the next one that comes out will be Gerber cost file, whatever the date is on the end. So you just choose a cost file. And then that's just this big long CSV file. A data file has thousands of lines of all of our various Gerber color foils, Gerber vinyls, all the different formats, 10 yard, 50 yard, 15 inch, 24 inch, 30 inch, 48 inch, et cetera, et cetera. Next, you have to tell it which job you actually want to extract the information from. So as we were looking at it before, here's extract example simple.plt. I'll go ahead and open that guy. And then what I'm going to do next is go ahead and get that mission critical information out of the CSV, out of the PLT file, and extract it into a CSV file. A CSV stands for comma separated values, and that's just a basic data format where each value is separated by a comma, as denoted by CSV, comma, separated values. So I'm going to extract it to CSV, and don't panic. There's a screen that's going to pop up, and I've already done it, so I had to practice. So here is a screen that pops up, and this screen is just asking you questions about which particular formats of the materials you want to use for costing purposes. Because as I said before, we do have 220 vinyl in 15 inch and 30 inch, 24 inch and 48 inch, and we have for many of the materials, they are available in 10 yard and 50 yard formats. And each one of those different formats has different potential costs per square foot or costs per linear foot. So all it's doing is asking you, what do you want to use for costing purposes? Which formats do you want to use? So up at the top are the vinyls. So I have white vinyl in the job, and I have violet vinyl in the job. So, and if you don't want to, I mean, we've already chosen some default values. So I'm just going to sort of go ahead and use the default values. For my white, that's the one that's highlighted. And for my violet, that's the one that's highlighted. And down below, you see that we have our Gerber color foils. So there's intense blue at 45 meters, intense blue at 91 meters, ruby red 45, 91, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's jet black, which is only available in 45 meters. And then the other difference is this column here, it says FX. Y, or if you have an edge 1 or edge 2, that would be FX no, N. And it figures this out automatically based upon if you have not output a job, here in Composer you have device select. So you notice that you can choose an edge, an FX, a Gerber Edge 2, a Gerber Max, whatever your output device is. By the way, we do not support the Max 2 for this costing. So whether you have an edge or an edge 2, you can choose your cost for that for your Gerber color foils. So it'll use this value that you've chosen in Composer for the format back here in the cost file. If you have output the job to GSP plot and you've chosen something different from what you have selected in Composer, so if you have edge 1 selected in Composer but you actually output to an edge FX through GSP plot, it will use the job that you've the output device that you've actually output to for your Gerber Edge. So trying to make it as quick and seamless as possible. So I've spent a lot of time here, but the good news is if everything is to your liking, you can just click on OK. You don't have to do anything in here if you just want to use the defaults. And there you go. So you have your PLT file, you have your cost file, you have your material formats, and now I want to go ahead and take a look at this PLT extract file. To me, the easiest way is to just click on Show in Folder. You can actually choose a particular CSV editor, and you can assign it as a default. I just do Show in Folder, and it brings it up in the folder where it saved that extracted file. It does save it as a CSV. And on my computer, I have CSV files associated with Microsoft Excel. So I just double-click on the job or click on Enter or press Enter, and it brings up this job here. So let me go ahead and close this out. It's in the way. Close in the way. Yeah, sure. Sorry. All right. And then here's all the data that it has extracted out of that PLT file. So it's kind of neat because you see, first of all, the day it was extracted. You have the full name of the PLT file, and so this is where it's located on your hard drive. The day it was created, the day it was modified, the size in bytes of this particular job, whether or not it has process, whether it has spot, etc. If you start to look down here, you start to see the Composer, vinyls, and foils. And just let me point out in this column A, you notice that there's $D1, $D0, Composer vinyl foil cost summary. So we're going to circle back around, and all of these dollar value fields, code fields, we're going to use these here in a moment to sort of close the loop on this whole PLT extract thing. So anyway, but meanwhile, in terms of information in here, here we have a Composer vinyl foil cost summary. So total Composer vinyl and foil costs per square foot is $1.95. We'll round it up. And it also breaks it down in this little summary. Your total Composer vinyl cost is $1.51. Your total Composer foil cost is 44 cents. You add it all up, it comes to $1.95. Sorry. And there are also, again, up here, there are individual items that you can see the cost for. So you can see any individual material that's in the PLT file. And as you go over here to the right, let me just drag this out a little bit, it gives you sort of a column name for what this is, as well as the information down below. So my white 220 Gerber vinyl, my width is 12.4 inches, my height is 9.9 inches, so that's 0.86 square feet. And then over here it shows you the cost per square feet for Gerber 220 vinyl. So it's $1.13 times 0.86 square feet, and here you have your total cost per square foot for your vinyl. So again, this is all the breakdown for all the individual materials, but over here is just a summary of all your vinyl and foil costs for that particular job. So anyway, again, just sort of going down, you have your areas, your print areas, your cut areas, your print cut areas. There's a nice summary of your Gerber fonts. So it has the fonts that are used, your Gerber fonts, as well as your TrueType or OpenType fonts, as well as a character counter, which is new in Omega 6.5 as well. You can see how many characters there are in each individual particular font that's used, again, for TrueType fonts as well as for Gerber soft fonts.
Hey, Dana, quick question.
Yeah. Yes,
Can
Adam,
you just
how
explain to people the difference between linear foot and square foot cost that you have listed there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And so square foot costs is, so let me go back here and I'll show you the job. So let's say everything that's red, or yeah, everything that's this red Gerber color foil here, if you take the area, I'm sorry, if you take the footprint, the selection footprint of everything that's red, that's what's shown here. So for my ruby red, it's saying the width is 7.6 and the height is 3.3 inches, and the total square feet is just about 0.18 square feet. So that is in Composer, the selection footprint of everything that's using that particular color, ruby red. When you're actually doing your costing, however, if you just do a job that's less than the total width of your vinyl or the total width of your foil, you don't necessarily want to cost it on a square foot basis, because this is saying, okay, it's only 0.2 square feet. But when you go to cost it, you might want to actually cost it on a linear foot basis. So my width for this ruby red is 7.6 inches. But so if you cost it on a square foot basis, it's only showing about 0.2 square feet. But if you're costing it on a linear basis, you have almost 7 inches. So that's why we show it on a cost per square foot basis, such as what you see here, or we also show it on a cost per linear foot basis. And in this case, they're kind of similar. So let me see my cost per square foot. Total cost per square foot for my ruby red is 12 cents. But my total cost per linear foot for my ruby red is 68 cents. So again, if you're not ganging up that particular piece, if you don't have multiple repeats, then you don't want to underrepresent your costs. And that's why you would use your cost per linear foot. Hopefully that makes sense. And for those of you who don't save scraps of vinyl, you understand what I'm saying. So you cut out a word, and the word takes up 1 linear foot, as opposed to just 2 inches by 1 foot. That's only a fraction of a square foot. So we have both linear costing as well as square foot costing. Right now in this cost summary that you see here, we're only showing square foot cost summary, but we will also add in a linear foot cost summary in an auto update coming in a couple of months here. So anyway, was that clear, Adam?
Yep.
Okay.
So you don't
Anybody have any
linear
questions?
Foot costing in there, only the square foot costing.
We have linear foot
Right
costing in this breakout here. We have linear and square foot costing.
Total.
But in this summary that you see here, it's only showing square feet for now, but we will we'll add in linear feet as well, because we've heard that loud and clear from some of our beta sites that it would be nice to have a summary for both linear and square feet. All right, so anyway, going down through here, all sorts of great summaries down here. So, so here's the information. You can use it. You can extract the job, and then you can use it for sort of archiving your jobs to sort of reconcile your actual output costs to what you charge to a customer or what have you. Or you can also use it, it's kind of nice, as perhaps a customer presentation tool. So you see this vinyl name composer summary. So this is showing the names of the vinyls that are in the job. And then down here below you see vinyl usage composer summary and vinyl cost composer summary. If you want to give a customer a presentation of all the vinyls, just the names that are in that job, you can do it a couple different ways. The first way is that you can just highlight this information here in the CSV file. So I just highlighted it here in Excel, and I'm pressing Control-C or Edit Copy to copy this information to the clipboard. And then I can come back here into Composer, and I can go to Edit, and I'll do Paste Here. Paste Here. So I go ahead and paste it here, and then I'm just going to click OK for that dialog box. And now you see that I have my vinyl name composer summary, and just like that, I have my composer vinyl names here in this PLT file that I can now save as a PDF, or I can export it as a JPEG. I can format it however I want and provide it to my customer as sort of a snapshot of the vinyls that are in the job. So it's nice because it's quick and easy to do it this way, vinyl usage. I also have my foil name composer summary, so I select that, Control-C in Excel. Back here, I can edit paste here in Composer. And there you have your foil names as well. So, and if you don't like these fields here, you can just delete those, and you just have the names of the vinyls and the foils right there as well. There's another way you can do that as well. So if you want to set up yourself like a template or something like that, Before, you notice I copied the field code as well as the data. But say I want to set up a template and I want to use certain field codes over and over and over again. So here's my Gerber font summary. So I'll do vinyl name, composer summary, foil name, composer summary, and Gerber font summary. I'm just going to go and, well, I'll actually grab all of these. Grab all these, Control C. So I'm just grabbing the field codes now, which is kind of neat. And then back here in Composer, I'm going to go ahead and edit paste those again. And I don't have any of the data associated with those field codes. But what I can do now, again in Omega 6.5, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see. I'm going to select these field codes and then go into the Tools menu and Repeats Merge. And in Repeats Merge, we now have a new tab up here, Extract Merge. And I'm going to select my file, which is extract example simple, extract example simple.csv. And all the fields that I have in there are going to automatically populate. So now you see I have my composer vinyl names, all the fields that I had. Oh, I'm sorry, and I have X repeats and Y repeats. One of the things you always want to make sure you do is just set those to 1 and 1, and then go ahead and apply it. And there you see that you have your vinyl names, vinyl usage, vinyl cost, foil names, foil usage, foil cost, total vinyl square foot cost, total foil square foot cost. And again, if you don't want to include these, you can just not put them in as the original field codes or just delete them out if you want to. And also you have your Gerber system fonts, which are your true type and open type fonts, and then your Gerber soft fonts. Again, a lot of people might charge for cut vinyl letters on a character by character basis for a fancy font or a simple font or what have you. But here you actually have the character count done right there for you. Nice, quick, easy, simple. So that's the costing stuff I was talking about. So I mean, that's kind of like a webinar in and of itself. There's a lot more that you can do. One of the things that I had mentioned before as well is that we have a cost file. So I'm going to go and open my cost file. So let's see, C:\jobs. Oh boy. Actually, let me do it from here. It's just quicker and easier. Select cost file, Gerber cost file. I'm going to go open. Boom. All right, so this is the actual Gerber cost file. So as I said, we have a lot of vinyls and a lot of foils, different colors, different formats. So it's all of our vinyls, all the part numbers, all the colors, the heights and the lengths as we sell it, the cost per square foot, the cost per linear foot, and this is kind of a neat thing that you see here, markup and user info and preferred. So you can actually change your costs in here. So these are Gerber list prices as published in our public price book. You can change these if you want to include. You can change your cost per square foot or your cost per linear foot. If you get it for less, you can make it less. If you get it for more, you can make it more. Another thing you can do is to add a markup, and you can add a markup in one of two ways. You can add an absolute value. So if my cost per square foot for Gerber 220 antique white vinyl is $1.66, I want to mark that up. Every time I use it, I want to mark it up by $3. Just put a 3 in there, and it's going to mark up your costs and your linear foot usage and your cost per square linear usage and square foot usage costs by a factor of 3. So I'm sorry, by a factor of $3. So if you just put a hard number in there, 3, it's going to add $3 to your costs. If you put in a percentage, I want to mark everything up by a factor of 3x. You can do 300%, and it's going to mark up that particular color by 3 times. It's going to mark it up by 3 times. Or if you only want to do it, by 150%, 150%. Oh, nope, 150%. So there you go. And so again, if you want a hard value, type in a hard number 3. If you want a percentage, 3, not percent. Stop it, Excel, giving me guff, 0. It's formatting in Excel, sorry. So if you want to mark it up by a percentage, 150%. If you want to mark it up by a hard number, such as $3, 3. There you go. Okay, and you can also do that back here in this PLT extract program as well. You can extract to a CSV. It's going to bark at me. By the way, if you have a CSV file open in Excel, it's going to give you this message, process cannot access the file being used. That's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and close out my extracted file. There we go. Don't save. So you can also mark it up in here as well. So now I'm going to tell it to do it again. And over here you notice you have markup. You can do the same thing here. So you can mark it up by a factor of, if you want to add $3, just put in a 3. You just have to click on it twice and highlight it. If you want to mark it up by a percentage, 300%, just add a percent at the end. Remember, 3% is not 3x markup. 3% is only 3% markup. So be careful. You got to remember your math. All right, so that's enough of that. Good, good, good. Sorry, I think that's pretty neat stuff. And so anyway, really neat stuff. Any questions on that? Yikes.
Dale, well, Bill here. I just got on. I got tied up earlier and I couldn't get on. Are you going to repeat this at any time in the future?
Bill, as usual, I'm going to do I'm recording this as we speak, and I will forward it to you because you did sign up for the webinar. I forward all of my recordings to anyone who signed up. So you will have.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's
so
my
very
pleasure.
Much.
And Bill, thanks again for joining. Bill has been one of the most staunch supporters of the webinar, so I certainly appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
They're fantastic.
And I'm sorry you got tied up. I hope it was. I hope you didn't get robbed or anything.
No, nothing like that.
Okay, good. Some of the other features in Omega 6.5, we talked about the outside outline, outside contour only. We also have in the shadow dialog box. Let me make that a little bigger, so I'll make it 5 inches. SHADOW. So in the shadow dialog box, let me give an outline on that guy as well. So I'll go ahead and give it an outline, apply. There we go. So what I can do, I can select my outline and go ahead into shadow now. So go to Tools and then Shadow. And if I want to do a shade or drop or what have you, I can go ahead and apply that, and it's showing me my shadow. If I want to show it filled or whatever, I can do that as well because I just showed that you can do that now. But now we have the ability to hide originals. So if I go ahead and hide originals, I selected my shadow before, so I can sort of do sort of a relief effect for my shadow because or actually in this case it's an outline effect because I have composite turned on. So go ahead, I have my outline and my shadow built into just one set of objects. So when I go to show that, you see the outline and the shadow. Now if I go ahead and I turn on partials and then I apply it, you see that you can kind of get a nice relief effect. We do have a relief capability over here, but if you already have the outline done, you can just click on a button here and just hide your originals and do it that way as well. So again, just a way to prevent you from, or to save you time having to have to delete extra objects as you go through your design process. You can just click on a button here and it will stay that way even as you regenerate your various reaction trees. Okay, easier backcut decals. Anybody doing backcut decals out there where you do your regular printing on your edge and then you do your front cutting like you always do, but then you flip over and you cut through the liner, so you basically get the ability to do like crack and peel labels without having to have to do the laborious paper cutting as a separate process. You use your plotter basically to process your decals so they fall right out of the liner. So we have a nice automated way of doing that in Omega, and now we have a way of doing that even more quickly and more easily. Shift F12, output all. All right, so here's my job, and for backcut decals, you can either use a specific layer or you can use just a weed border for your backcut decals. So for those of you who are familiar with it, if you go here and you go to backcut, you can now create a series of settings, and you can save it for a particular material type, for example. So for me, if I want to do just 220 vinyl, I might have fairly lighter settings for my 220 vinyl for doing the back cutting. If I have polyester label stock, that liner tends to be a little bit heavy, so I can add a new one in here called polyester label stock with more weight and with more cuts and with different settings than from my 220. So then you just have to click on the name and you have all those settings automatically retrieved for you nice and quickly and easily for back cutting. So that's what that's all about. And if you're not familiar with back cutting, we do have, I think there's actually a back cut webinar on our Omega Learning Center that I showed you back in the beginning.
Omega 6.5 has a new clipping path preview mode that eliminates the image areas outside of the clipping path, giving you a cleaner look in your F9 show preview image mode. So here in Omega 6.5, here I am in show filled mode, and of course it's showing the clipping path with the outside area of the image removed. I'm going to get out of show filled mode by pressing F8, and here I am in wireframe mode, and you notice that the image extends outside of the word ski. However, when I go to view and show image, you notice that the preview area eliminates the image outside of the clipping path. So for contrast's sake, I'm going to flip over to Omega 6.0, bring this in, and here I am in wireframe mode, and again you notice that the image is outside of the word ski. But if I go to image, if I go to the view menu and show image, you notice that the image shows outside of the word ski. So it's a little more cumbersome to work in this preview mode as opposed to this preview mode. So there it is in Omega 6.5. The image area outside of a clipping path in show image mode is eliminated. Omega 6.5 now has a new PDF export capability that maintains the capabilities of our EPS and AI export. This includes capabilities such as named spot colors, cut contours, and other export features. So to access this PDF capability, go to the File menu and then Export. And you can export all selected or vinyl. And then drop down your file type and find PDF Adobe Acrobat GSP 6.5. And then I'm going to export to presentation template. Once you've exported the file, you can go ahead and open it in an Adobe PDF viewer. And here you see the job, and you see that you have your colors, and you have your small text, and everything looks nice and vibrant. Reversing this, I'm going to go ahead and go back to Composer and do File Open, and choose that presentation template that I just exported, and I'm going to import my pure CMYK values, and then click on OK. And now you notice the new file that I just imported has the same attributes as the original file that I exported from Composer. So here's my intense blue, here's my red, here's my violet 220 vinyl as cut only, and then here's my jet black Arial font. So again, this is good for, number one, for creating presentations, and number two, for print, cut, inkjet workflows or workflows to other desktop publishing programs where you'd like to maintain named spot colors and cut contour objects. Omega 6.5 now has the ability to maintain CMYK colors that are assigned in other desktop publishing programs. Previously, there was a good chance that your original CMYK colors would be changed due to a conversion through RGB. So to do this, you can simply go to File, Open, or Import and find your file that has the CMYK shapes and values in it. And the most important thing is that you turn on this checkbox, Import Pure CMYK Values. Again, the original file does have to be saved as a CMYK file, otherwise there will be a natural conversion from RGB to CMYK. But if it is saved as CMYK, simply click on Import Pure CMYK Values, click on OK, and you'll see that your colors will come through. So we'll take a look here. So we have CMYK 150, 60, 10. And if I go in and take a look, 150, 60, 10. Or down here we have 0, 0, 0, 100. If we take a look, 0, 0, 0, 100. So this is great for having a nice, consistent CMYK color workflow from desktop publishing programs right into Composer.
So that's kind of a smattering of the Omega 6.5 features. One of the things I said that I would do is sort of do a quick review of some of the features in some of our other previous releases. So unless there are any questions about Omega 6.5, I'll move on and just show some of my other favorite features in 6.0 and 5.0 and 4.0. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. So. All right, so in Omega 6.0, just want to sort of reiterate, this is a GE logo that I grabbed off the internet, and you can see as I zoom in on it, you can see some of the pixelization. In Omega 6.0, we really made it super easy to get really nice results, actually, even from stuff you grab off the internet. Not everyone gets camera-ready artwork. Most of you probably do, right? Wow, Bill, I bet you get camera-ready artwork from your customers. But okay, so maybe you don't always get camera-ready artwork. So as you go into Tools and Raster to Vector, as you see here, Tools, Raster to Vector, it's going to bring up a dialog box. And what's showing here over on the right-hand side is sort of a snapshot of the image information getting fed into the vectorization engine. And basically what you want to do is sort of characterize the quality of the artwork as it exists in Composer just sitting on the work surface. So I'm going to say this artwork is actually, it's not bad, it's pretty good, but some of the other options are low, excellent, camera ready, 12-point text, and we also have some legacy settings as well. So I'm going to say this is good, and what it's going to do is automatically give me more information, more image information being fed into the vectorization engine, so I get better quality results just by simply clicking on this good smoother thing and make sure I have this checkbox turned on here in the middle. So I'm going to go OK, and I'll press F9 so I can turn off my image preview. And you see I have my GE logo nice and quick. And if I press D for Detail Edit, you can see all of my vectors there. And it's a nice, quick vectorization result. And not that I want to cast aspersions on the software that we had before. Let me just delete that guy. I'm going to select it, and in previous versions, if you didn't do this resampling, I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to set this back to the 179, the original, or 178, the original pixel height. So if you didn't do this Omega 6.0 automatic resampling, you'd get a result that's kind of a little bit looser, I guess we call it. So this is what you might get in a previous version, and this is what you can get in Omega 6.0, much cleaner, much truer to the original. And just by clicking on a simple button, nice, quick, and easy vectorized results. All right, also in Omega 6.0, we have font matching. This has been a really popular feature. And again, if you're at Omega 1.5, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, or 5.0, you will get this font matching capability as well. So I don't know if anybody knows what font that is. I certainly do, but I wouldn't know off the top of my head, of course. So we have a capability called Find My Font. There we go. Here's Find My Font Gerber Omega Edition. And all you do is you just place this window over whatever the screen is, whether it's Composer, whether it's Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator, CorelDRAW. It can be a website. It can be a PDF file. It can be another desktop publishing program. So you just put this window on top of the other window that has the font you're trying to identify, and then you click on the camera button. And then you just sort of go over and pick some of the letters you think that are, sort of unique looking or what have you, or just click on 3 or 4 or 5 letters, and then you just type in what the letters are. And you do have to match the case, M-A-T-C, and press Enter. And what it does, it goes out and it compares to the fonts that are loaded on your system, whether TrueType or OpenType fonts, fonts that are on your system but not necessarily loaded, so you don't have to wait 5 minutes waiting for all 10,000 of your fonts to get loaded into a particular program. You can have them off in a separate folder and Find My Font to that folder and have it go look at those fonts as well. And it also matches to an online database of 140,000 plus fonts. So chances are you're going to get a pretty good results between your online fonts or the fonts that are on your system. So just in a couple seconds, it says that this is GRB. GRB means that it's a Gerber Omega font that's been converted into a TrueType font for font matching purposes. So this is a Gerber font, Caslon Add Bold. And if I go back here and I put my text cursor in there, it says Caslon Add Bold. So there it is. It found it just in a matter of seconds, and I use Find My Font probably multiple times a day. That's a fantastic feature. So logos on
I use it a lot. It's fantastic.
Oh, good, wonderful, wonderful. And you know, and even if you don't necessarily, sometimes it'll point you to a font you have to purchase. It also shows you sort of a continuum of fonts, so you might have something that's on your system that's close enough, right? So you don't have to go out and spend money on a new font. And by the way, Gerber does not participate in any of the font purchases. We just wanted to offer the service of identifying the fonts. Logos on QR codes, we've added a QR code capability, actually a huge barcode capability. And now you can actually embed a logo into some of these QR codes. So that's a nice feature. Bitmap fills, you can have text, and you can have any sorts of objects, and you can have a bitmap. So here I have the word bitmap, and then I have this image down here, and the image is just sort of this background. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this guy, go into my image menu, and I'm going to say, okay, I want that one to fill this word here. So you just identify the image, and then you do bitmap fill, and you tell it how many times you want it to repeat. I want it to repeat 5 times, and I want it to scale in X. I want it to scale this way. So what it does, it automatically scales it. It automatically puts it to back. It automatically turns my vectors into a clipping path, and it makes it so you can just get a nice, neat effect with images and bitmap fills very quickly. So it sort of does all that just in the blink of an eye. So that's something else. If you're at 5.0 or 4.0 or 3.0, you get all of these features just simply by upgrading to Omega 6.5. If you're at 6.5, then you already have those features, of course, but here's just sort of a review and a refresh. All right, everybody, I'm showing 11.01. I'm going to finish up and show a couple more features in 4.0 and 3.0 and 5.0. Take any questions you might have, but if you do have to go, I want to say thank you so much for attending What's New in Omega 6.5. As I said, I will send a follow-up email with a recording of the webinar, as well as with links to some, hopefully some useful information you might be able to use. So if you do have to go, thank you so much. And meanwhile, I'll just sort of finish up and take any questions and show some other features from other releases. Okay, let me proceed. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about what's new in Omega 5.0. GSP plot weed lines. This is kind of a feature that sometimes gets hidden, but again, it can be very supremely useful if you do a lot of vinyl cutting. And after you cut your vinyl, you take out your X-Acto and you start to slice apart what you just cut out. GSP plot weed lines, or weed sectioning, sort of automates that process. So let me scale this guy up so it's about 10 inches long.
Let me make sure I have my cuts turned on, because you have to have cuts turned on for weed sectioning or weed lines to work. And now I can go Shift F12 to go into GSP plot. And then once you're here, you can go to the layout menu, weed sectioning, and I want to have some vertical weed lines or weed sections. And how many would I like? I'll say I'll do 8 weed sections. And you can also preview it if you want to. And then there's some other settings in here where you can tell it the number of sections, such as what I already used. You can adjust the width. The offsets, I'll zoom in and show what these offsets mean. And then there are some other settings so you don't get little tiny pieces of weed sections. You can tell it to discard any small pieces based upon the threshold settings here. You can also invert your weed sections so it goes to the inside instead of the outside. So there we have it. And then once you're in here, I'm going to press Z for zoom, and I'll zoom in even a little further so you can see there's a little bit of a gap between the weed section and the cut shape there, and that's because of that offset value that's turned on. I can make it more exaggerated, so section offset, I'll make it 0.1 inch, and now you can see that offset. Another thing you can do with the weed sections is to move them manually. So if you don't like the way that it's intersecting through a shape, you can move it so that it doesn't interfere with the shape, so it just goes into a non-cut area. If you want additional weed sections, you can hold down the Control key and click out of the rulers, and it will insert additional weed sections as well. Conversely, if you wish to remove a weed line, you can click and drag into the ruler to remove it.
Back to Omega 5.0, Composer OCR, so we added some new raster to vector features in 5.0 as well, and what OCR stands for is optical character recognition. So say you scan something in and it's basically a page of text, and you have a choice. You can either go ahead and re-enter this text, or you can use the Composer OCR capability. So this is just an image that was scanned in, and I'm going to go into Tools, Raster to Vector, and we have OCR to clipboard. And what it's going to do is going to sort of look at this image data, and it's going to automatically convert it into text, which is pretty neat. If you want to, you can zoom out and you can select different areas. So if you only want to get one particular area, you can use this selection down here and just get that particular section. And then what I'm going to do is click on OK. And as it says, it's going to OCR that optical character recognition and put it on my clipboard. So if I go into small text, I have that text right on my clipboard, which is kind of neat. So again, instead of having to go ahead and type it in, you can just use OCR to clipboard. You do want to proofread it because depending on the quality of the original text that you scanned in, you do want to make sure you proofread it. However, we do have spell check. So you can go ahead and tell it to start, and it says this is another way instead of they, just based upon the way that particular W looked. And then you can tell it to change and keep going through. So this is switch. I'm going to make that switch. You can also use the suggestions down below if you want to, et cetera, et cetera. So who instead of vu. And so I'm going to say go ahead, change it, and then go ahead and get out of there. And then F11. All right, and there it is, OCR to clipboard. And, auto align edge to Envision. So if you have a Gerber Edge and an Envision 375, you can now have it automatically aligned so you don't have to use your BOM site. If you have a Gerber router, such as a Sabre, we have something called layering auto process. So you can basically have ArtPath automatically apply a set of rules based upon layers that you have in your PLT file or other types of files that you import. So you can have it do a particular offset or a particular clean out just based upon the name of the layer. Again, instead of having to go back and do that sort of manual processing, you can have it automatically processed based upon the layer name and the rules you create. Distort gradients is a nice design feature where instead of having your distortion just kind of go, this is one of the arc distortions, you can have your distortion actually follow your gradient fill, or have your gradient fills follow your distortions. So that's another feature. And to get to that, you just go into the distortion dialog box, and there's a checkbox here, distort gradient fill. So you create your text or your graphic, you apply a gradient fill, you choose your distortion type and tell it to distort your gradient fill, and then you go ahead and you fine-tune what your values are, and go ahead and it will actually give you explicit shapes that it goes ahead and it applies specific fills to the specific shapes of your gradient, and because it exposes these components of the gradient fill, you're able to distort them. So view GQ Manager jobs. That's another one that I use constantly as well, the ability to view GQ Manager jobs, especially if you have an edge. So you can go to the File menu and you can tell it to print preview, and it will bring up a preview of the information that's being sent down to your Gerber Edge, as well as a preview of the information that gets sent down to your plotter. So it's a way to sort of soft-proof your job, to pre-flight your job before you actually commit to any materials. So that's another one that I use just about every time I output a job now. I will do a File, Print Preview to sort of get a snapshot of what that's going to look like before I actually send it down to my Edge or to my plotter. All right, next up, just a quick smattering of what's new in Omega 4.0. If you have a Gerber Edge FX, we do have Edge FX High Res Mode. And again, when you upgrade to 6.5, if you're before 4.0, you get all of the features that we're talking about here. 4.0 is when we actually introduced backcut decals, and we talked about some improvements that we made to that in Omega 6.5. Faster rendering for the Edge FX. We also have something called automatic halftones, and if you look in the What's New in Omega 4.0 document that's on our website, it'll show you it's just a click of a button, and it will optimize your halftone dot size for all different types of Gerber Edge output. We have nesting in ArtPath. We also have nesting in Composer as well. Here, one last thing I do want to show though is in Omega 3.0 we have reaction, and again reaction is and that was added in Omega 3.0. And what it is usually when you double-click on something, it brings up the dialog box that created it. Reaction is just the ability to add a series of features. And by the way, I'm pressing F8 while I'm in the dialog box so I can get to wireframe so I can see my outline setting. That was added in 6.5. So now when I double-click with reaction, it allows you to change any of the elements in a stream of functions or features that you've added. So I can go ahead and change my font from Albertus to be Alcune Discaps URW, one of our URW fonts that we have. So now you notice that it gave me my new font, and it automatically reapplied my outline. And that just continues as you add more features and functions. So if I go ahead and I add a shadow, and then I can still go back and change my font, or I can change the text. So I want it to say Thursday instead. Thursday. And it automatically reapplied my outline, automatically reapplied my shadow, etc. So it's a great way to allow you to set up templates and just go ahead and reapply them. So say you always use the same outline, the same shadow, you can do that. Or you can also do different what-if scenarios much more quickly, much more easily than the old way before Omega 3.0. So that's what reaction is. And by the way, again, see some of these inside shapes. Perhaps you don't want those. I'm going to double-click on that, go to my outline, and say outside contour only, et voila, I don't have those any longer because I just have my outside contour. And I'm zooming out and scrolling around while I'm in the dialog box. So if I can do different values of 0.25 outline and go ahead and apply that. And again, with reaction, it made my outline larger but still applied that same shadow value to my outline. So that's what reaction is. Okay, anyway, thank you so much. 11:13. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thursday. Hopefully you got some interesting tidbits of information out of our webinar today. And again, I will send a follow-up email. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me via email, or my contact information is in there. So thanks again. Have a great day. And I'll stay online if anyone has any questions.
Yes, sir. I had a question on your font matching.
On the font matching, sure.
5.0.
You have 5.0?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Do I have the capability for that?
You can upgrade to Omega 6.5, and then you will have that capability. We added that in 6.0, and of course we're continuing it in 6.5. So upgrade to 6.5, and you have that font matching capability. And here's kind of just sort of as an example of the font matching. I'm going to go ahead and grab this word Thursday. Again, it was one of the URW fonts. I would have no idea what that font is. But let me just zoom in a little bit more. There we go. F8 to show it filled. And then I have my Find My Font here. And I'm going to click on the camera. It takes a picture of my Composer screen, or whatever screen is underneath. THUR. Thur. And I just type in what those characters are. Press Enter, and over. So the left side is kind of the input side, and the right side is your matching side. So you're seeing that it says that it is URW Alcuin DC Bold Regular URW. And if you look over on the right side in the description, now the first one is 97.43. The second one is 97.43, but it says Gerber URW fonts. You do get, I think, 2,000 URW fonts with Omega CP. You also get the TrueType version on the Omega DVD. So you can load the TrueTypes, or you can use the Gerber URW fonts, whichever you prefer. So the fact that it says Gerber means that it's a Gerber font, which means that chances are you don't have to buy it because you might have Omega CP with all these fonts already. Have a great Thursday.